there.
There we go.
And
Good evening.
how's it going?
Very cool. Very cool. Is YouTube and Facebook picking us up as far as you can see?
It looks like something screwed up with YouTube. Oh, here we go. Let me I'm fixing it. I'm fixing it as we speak. And
So while Iris is doing that, I'll go ahead and start the talkie talk for us. Hello, greetings, welcome to the show. My name is Margot. Beside me is Iris, and we are your hosts for The Eyes of Indigo. And we are a show that features talking about weird stuff in a rational way. And our intention is to convey education and coping mechanisms for the strange and weird and wonderful world that we live in lately. And do it with a sense of humor, as mentioned. So if you're new to the show, welcome. Hi, we're glad you're here on the channel. If you'd like to know more about, well, who is Margot? What's her dealio? And who's this Iris? And what's behind her story? Feel free to go to our very first episode called The Prequel, dated September of 2020. We've been doing this weekly since then. And check out our credentials on that particular 30-minute episode. Find out more about who we are. And along the same line, you can also see all past recordings of our show on YouTube and Facebook. And you can also hear it in audio recording on Spotify, iTunes, and other aggregators, and listen to us that way. Because we have audio recordings, whenever something is visual, we do describe it so that people that are doing the audio version can also follow along. So if you are signing on to the show tonight, welcome. Please feel free to type hello, aloha, namaste, what the fuck. We do swear on this show a lot.
That's where I am. I'm in the WTF zone right now.
Because sacred swearing is a part of real life, especially in this chaotic fourth dimensional time period we seem to be in. But anyway, type and let us know you're out there. That's the fastest way to know, for us to know, that we have other ears in the air besides our own. And if you miss something, if you miss part of the show, again, feel free to check us out in a recording on back issues. If you'd like to know more about a specific topic, if you can imagine, we've covered more than 100 topics on this show weekly since 2020. So you can see a directory of all the topics we've covered and which episode they are in on Iris's website, iriscarter.com. And you can see Eyes of Indigo directory, EOI directory. And there's instructions there for how to search and find a specific topic, because many shows cover multiple topics. Not all of them, but most of them do. So you can have fun with that too. If you want to reach Iris directly, you certainly can. Iris at iriscarter.com, or you can reach me at Margot at indigoanswers.com and learn more about Iris on her website, iriscarter.com, or learn a lot about me on indigoanswers.com. And there we have, there's Katie. Hello, Kitty Bird. Thank you, sweetie. Thanks for typing in. We appreciate that. Namaste. Namaste.
And she's from YouTube, so obviously YouTube found us. Yay.
Yay. Yeah. Technical difficulties. Gee, are we the only ones with technical difficulties lately? Cell phones alone.
Hey, Dale and Jeannie. Good to see y'all.
Dale and Jeannie are with us. Yay. Aloha.
Our spiritual center. Yay. Can't tout them enough. They're awesome.
Oh, thank you. Katie says, thank you for all of your lovely videos. You're awakening people to higher levels of consciousness, and it is awesome. Thank you. we appreciate personal and public displays of support and love. We do, for sure, for sure. So we appreciate you guys, and guys and gals. It
Yeah.
means, yeah. Have you ever noticed that calling somebody a dude is now proper among women?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I'm like, hey, dudes, but
Yeah.
sometimes if it's just women around me, I'll go, dudettes, hey.
And they look at you and go, eh? I'm like, oh, dude, what are you doing? It's just part of it. Male or female doesn't matter. When my clients, customers, when they talk to me, sometimes they get into saying yes, sir, no, sir, when they're talking to me and David. And after a while, they realize they've been saying sir to me. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I meant to say ma'am. I'm like, think Star Trek. It's the same thing. You're just being respectful. You can say yes, sir, or no, sir, if that works for you. And yeah, hey there. Oh, they're rolling in. Hi, Ken Pataki. Awesome, awesome. Thank you. Ty is here too. Hello, sweetie. Namaste. Namaste. Dude, where's my car? Was the name of a popular movie that was.
I actually knew somebody growing up. He was the older brother of one of my good friends when I was younger. And one morning, his parents woke up and they looked out front and they didn't see their son's car. And they looked in his room and they said, they woke him up. He was just out, and he got up all groggy and they said, son, are you all right? Yeah, what's up? Well, where's your car? He looked out the window. He goes, I don't know. And he went back to sleep.
Your son is stoned.
Yep, he was. And they literally had to drag his ass out of bed and go find his little hiding spots around the neighborhood when they found it off some dirt road.
That he must have hiked in on or got a ride home from.
Exactly. And he doesn't remember. He didn't remember at the time.
Maybe that was wise.
Yeah, and then it was like years later when the car movie came out, I was like, that happened years ago. This is old news.
Dude, where's my car? Yeah, very, very common problem when at that age, at those youthful ages.
And this was in the 70s. So
well, it happens again when we're seniors. So it all comes back around. Everything is holistic, right? sad example, but yeah, there you go. There you go. So Heidi is here. Hello. There you go. Heidi knows what to write.
Yeah.
And what the fuck is up? She's good.
She's right in the dudes category with us there.
Heidi's been listening, apparently. She's in the role with us.
Yeah.
So for tonight's show, we want to shift gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about something that's a little darker, a little heavier, and had the phrase Operation Mockingbird has been floating around for a while. Iris, can you lead us away?
Yeah, it fully documented. Operation Mockingbird, quote unquote, they'd like to put it in the past tense, a fully implemented CIA program to spread disinformation throughout the American media. And there's this quote, CIA Director William Colby testified to the church committee. That's not like a church worship place. It was the name of the committee. That over 400 CIA agents were active in the U.S. media to control what was reported through American mainstream television, newspapers, and magazines. And so when you think of, first of all, he testified 400 agents active in the U.S. media, and that we know that Operation Mockingbird was a real thing, and you start putting 2 and 2 together, you get a lot of 2 and 2s.
Yeah, you get a lot of force. What were the years of Colby's time in the CIA?
Colby was around in the 80s, I believe.
I think he
And
stopped in like 82, 83, 84, something like that.
yeah, but there was Operation Mockingbird was going on even earlier. And just to, I think this
Oh,
would be a
yeah,
good
yeah, yeah.
point to throw this in. Anderson Cooper, direct descendant and heir to the Vanderbilts, the second wealthiest family in American history. And he was in a secret society at Yale University called the Manuscript Society, worked for the CIA, became a participant in Operation Mockingbird, and is now on
Still spreading
CNN.
disinformation
Yeah.
to manipulate the thoughts and beliefs of the public to further the CIA agenda. All right, so we're not really talking about who are the CIA right now.
No.
Hey, Rosemary, we're not really talking about that right now. That's a whole nother discussion.
But it's part of the manipulation.
That is part of where we're discussing weird stuff in a rational way. The weird stuff is before we worry about who the CIA are, let's talk about what are they doing that is causing suspicion. That gives us cause for concern. And there's a name for what they're doing, and it's literally called Operation Mockingbird. There are documentaries out there that will give you explicit rundowns as to the years and who did it and what it was for. Generally speaking, they couch it under Operation Mockingbird was intended to send disinformation during the Cold War, very important Cold War, during the Cold War era to foreign media to spread dissemination in disinformation among foreign media. And what they found out was due to the way the CIA was set up and which outlets they were actually sending information to, they found out they were actually sending disinformation to American media as well as foreign information. And the disinformation was being channeled, given to foreign agents to send disinformation back into the United States. Well, who told you that? The French people. French people, where did you get it? We got it from the US embassy. Where'd they get it? From the CIA. So it was basically like money laundering. It was laundered through foreign intelligence agencies to be disinformation disseminated in American media. So they try to, as you can see, that's a little more complicated, not such a straightforward explanation. That's by design. That's intentionally like that, yeah, to make it annoying to try to follow the breadcrumbs.
Well, it's like money laundering. When you're going to money launder, you have to run it through different accounts and go back and forth across the ocean and all that, so that people can't trace it because you don't want them to know the source.
And you make it more as complicated as possible. Yeah, it's called CYA, cover your ass. But for dark and nefarious purposes. So what is Operation Mockingbird? Now, as you saw in the intro, Iris mentioned in the meme, it mentioned it covered television, newspaper, and magazine. Well, now it also covers internet. And we found out now that it also covered books and radio. It covered all of that. And in this meme you got, go ahead and pop it all the way up, please, Iris. CIA's Operation Mockingbird is a quote from William Casey, director of CIA from 1981 to 87. 81 to 87. All right. And the quote is, "We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false." And this quote can be found over and over and over. And the rest of the image is people watching television. TV tends to be the most popular way for humans to absorb information because it's in every other room of a typical American household. And so in some cases, it's running 20 out of 24 hours a day.
Do you know what's interesting? Just to kind of relates to this. The other, I started rewatching the Game of Thrones. It's just a way for me to veg out of all things. And I haven't, I didn't watch it for a few years, and I'm going back and one of the first episodes, second episodes, the queen is talking to her son, and he was talking about what he wanted to be and what he may have been portrayed as. And she said, when you are king, you will rewrite history. And she said, you will, when you are king, you will be this and this and this. And he's going, well, they made a fool of me. And she said, when you're king, you can rewrite history and be anything you want to be. And you'll have it recorded the way you want. And I'm like, holy shit.
She's spelling, the show writers were spelling it out. History is written by the winners is a real popular way to that's commented on cavalier, in a cavalier style, but it's actually a very serious problem. Yeah, the winners write the show. Have you guys ever noticed when you were growing up and you heard about the Pilgrims and the Indians and Christopher Columbus and the native indigenous and Thanksgiving and how we made friends at that one tiny spot in that one tiny town on that one occasion? You don't hear about very much about the massive tragedy that happened for indigenous people. And I heard a real cute quote that was actually quite cool. A Native American Indian said, yeah, on October 12th, 1492, indigenous people discovered Christopher Columbus because he came to them and this was their territory. So,
well, one of the things
history is written by the winners, not by the losers.
Yeah, Christopher Columbus was supposedly going to find out if the world was round. That's what we were always taught in school.
No,
but we already had globes.
He was looking for cash-tradables. Yeah. Well, he was looking for a trade route, but he was also looking for gold, silver. Eventually, he found tobacco and animals and herbs and salt and all kinds of and peppers and plants that Europeans love. I mean, he was looking for gold, for riches, resources would be a better word. All right, so the way history was portrayed was that Native Americans were savages, that they were brutal, and that they kept beating up the white people for coming onto their land. And it was totally glossed over for the most part until like maybe the last 40 odd years, what the European encroachment was actually like. And a real good example of what it was like is the movie that Kevin Costner did, Dances with Wolves. It's a 3-hour movie, worth every second, excellent acting, excellent cinematography, excellent writing, the whole 9 yards. A great movie and fairly accurate. So that's a good example. But yeah, that's, tying that back to your throne thing. Yes, the kings and queens and the victors write the stories about what it was like, not the other way around. So Operation Mockingbird plays into that, in that it's very, very if you read up on Operation Mockingbird, and we encourage you to do that, what you're finding out is that CIA wanted to disseminate propaganda to control the narrative about how they wanted American values to sit and support their efforts, such as war efforts, political campaigns. Just to give you two examples of, what would they be pushing for? Tying into that, it was the Bilderberg Group is a faction that was tied into that supported this effort. And sidebar, the Bilderberg Group started in 1954. It was founded by an ex-Nazi, Prince Bernhard, and a Vatican spy agent, Joseph Redinger. And it was deemed as a group of dozens of high and powerful and the world's most powerful and richest people to meet once a year to try to negotiate trades between Europe and America during the Cold War eras, except for they're still going today. Okay, they said they took a 2-year sabbatical from 2020. They meet yearly. It's by invitation only. No press, no minutes, no records, no talking about what is said or transpired. By the way, everybody that attends or is invited usually becomes a head of state within the next year or two. Case in point, Bill Clinton. All right, just to give you one example. So anyway, turning back to Bilderberg, some of the topics and programs that they were running were supporting media censorship, such as Mockingbird, population control using pandemics, destruction of world economies, including the US dollar, which was the most powerful unit of money for a long time until recently. Global military control, New World Order, look that up. Controlling all of the central world banks as well as all of their affiliates. They wanted to end indigenous sovereignty. Ooh, that's a topic that we want to talk about, Iris. Indigenous sovereignty, and I'll explain more in a little out after the show. And they also the Bilderberg co-created the European Union, which a lot of Europeans went, no, and we are seeing it does not work well. And there's more, but those are some of the hot topic buttons that the Bilderberg, including Mockingbird, supported. And this is the kind of people that were supporting and running Operation Mockingbird. As you can probably extrapolate, Mockingbird probably went beyond the US. Mockingbird was probably a propaganda system that went around the world. Now, something we didn't talk about before the show is, how is this legal? How can this be legal? I forgot to write it down, but Nixon and Obama both wrote into law bills that allowed propaganda and information to manipulate the awareness and the values of the American public. I think it was Nixon that did it first back in the 70s. There used to be specific laws that said you're not allowed to propagandize on American media. There used to be U.S. laws that did that.
I think I've got a meme on that, but let me show this real quick because I put the link to this site in
good.
the chat, but I just wanted to show that
zoom in as far as you can. Yeah.
Let me go back over.
So guys, this is a map of the Bilderberg group and what kind of influence. I mentioned that they were people of huge influence. We're talking about, kings, queens, presidents, prime ministers, crown princes of, Middle Eastern and Netherlands countries and European countries. And she's scrolling through the website so you guys can get on this diagram. Now, the Bilderberg group is the outside edge of that pink circle. You can see the individual peoples, and their names are right below them. You can see gray lines, hundreds and hundreds of them, fanning straight out and at angles everywhere to all kinds of icons, logos, and names in the periphery of this diagram. And that tells you what professional and family business associations that particular person has. The point being is, look how pervasive the influence is of the Bilderberg annual invitation only secret meetings have everywhere in commerce.
Well, like all of them down here in the bottom right are all DC affiliated, including the Office of the President and the Secretary of State for European Matters. All of these are little White House or congressional building symbols down here in the right. And we'll go up and here's some more. And then I can't tell what the little colored boxes are, but you've got the Center for something development.
You got a lot of commercialism.
Yeah, you got all the commercial properties in different segments.
You got all the major businesses and media in there.
Dean, McCain, Kerry, Clinton, all of their little political signs are in there. MoveOn.org, which is a very liberal organization. Skull and Bone Society.
That's another secret college affiliate.
University of
Harvard
Texas, Rockefeller
schools.
University of Columbia University, Princeton University, Harvard, Radcliffe.
All right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of foundational groups as well as commercial groups, which you can see the commercial groups mostly off to the bottom left. Xerox, 3M, McDonald's, Sara Lee, Target. Sara Lee owns everything, FedEx, and so on. JCPenney, I see there. Microsoft is also in there. So thank you for bringing that up, Iris. Apple is in there, Gillette, Delta Airlines, and so on. So,
but the other thing was I think it has the timeline.
if you want to see that and blow up, by the way, we'll have it in the links after the show.
Well, the links are also in the chat. I put the bit.ly link that I've got up in the chats are for that because it was just so darn long. It was too long for I can only have 200 characters, and it was
Gotcha.
So I made it, shortened it.
So pop this all the way up too, please, so make it easy to see. Go ahead,
this
Iris.
is how the law allows the media to legally disinform you. 2013 National Defense Authorization revision was signed into law, including an amendment to legalize domestic propaganda on the American people, allowing corporate media to create misinformation against our citizens legally. This is allowed even though FCC regulations state it is illegal for broadcasters to intentionally distort the news, and the FCC may act on complaints if there is documented evidence of such behavior. The history of controlling the perceptions of the American people started in 1950 with Operation Mockingbird, initiated by the CIA Director Allen Dulles, in which the CIA controls the content of the media information that informs our citizens up to present day. Kennedy was aware of the importance of the American people being informed, fired Allen Dulles for his nefarious activities. He said, "I'm not asking your newspapers to support the administration, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. For I have complete confidence in the response and dedication of our citizens whenever they are fully informed."
JFK.
Yeah. And I thought there was another one about the laws that I had pulled up, but I'm not seeing it right off the top of my head.
So what we're talking about is the legal aspect of that. And again, that's actually pretty easy to dig into. That's common information that you can even find on Google. However, we do recommend DuckDuckGo and similar search engines like that are a lot less filtered than Google is. You can find out where Operation Mockingbird has gone and will go. It even includes a subliminal. So what do they call it? Subsonic signals that carry in on the television or radio wavelengths into your home. So that means subsonic means you can't hear it. And there's information being fed into your home, into your brain, into your subconscious, telling you what to think and how to feel, what to value and what to hate and what to enjoy. So my intuitive read has been, while that doesn't happen 24/7 necessarily, depending on where you live, it's out there and it's recorded and documented that has happened and that they have done that. So awareness is part of the key. Now, as we mentioned before, I want to circle back a little bit. You can tell we're kind of getting into some dark shit. Back in April or May of 2020, I posted a link to see a documentary about Operation Mockingbird, and I got pushback for it big time. Dale and Jeannie's Daisy, y'all know what I'm talking about, right? People did not want to see that. Some did, and some did not. And the reason for it, when the pushback I got, is it was very gentle and kind in its wording, but what it was saying is, we're too scared. That is too scary. We want to find solace in our religious and spiritual connections, not fear, which is actually a pretty legitimate point to an extent. It depends on what you think spirituality is, and it depends on what you think reality is.
How many churches are based on fear?
How many
You damn well
churches?
better do right, or God's gonna hit you with a lightning bolt. Holy shit!
Exactly, sweetie. So people that come through Lua are trying to get away from exactly that. They don't want to be called sinners. They don't want to be told they're going to hell. They don't want to be told that there's a penalty for everything they do. They're tired of listening to the karma bullshit.
Oh, okay, all right. Because I thought you
Right?
were saying like other
No,
general people.
not
No, we
mainstream
want to
people.
find
No, Lua.
fellas.
This was my personal. Maybe I wasn't clear. This was the Lua newsletter, Light and Energy Workers Association. All right. So alternative thinkers. So we're
Rosemary's
still talking.
with me here.
Yep, exactly. Thank you. Good clarity, guys. Dudes. Good clarity, my dudes. And so it was interesting, but that was back in early 2020. Now it's 23. I talked about it with Iris, and I was like, you know what? It's time. And since then, other people have put out documentaries about Operation Mockingbird that are not as incendiary of flavor and taste and feel and word choice as that first video that I put out back in 2020 in my newsletter. And so that's one of the links that Iris is also including, is a link on rumble.com that you can see let's say a milder version of talking about the history of Mockingbird and specifically where it went, what it did, and the proof behind its existence and what it's done so far. It's got footage of, it's got real-time footage of people, congressmen and women that were approached about it and what they said in their defense or in their discovery, such as the church committee. Church was somebody's last name, not that it was a religious thing.
Right.
Just like German chocolate cake is not actually Bavarian. That's German. It was the name of the baker that invented it. Okay. So that's typical misnomer there. But check that out. Now, before you do that, before you go digging into watching videos about, ooh, this sounds important. Operation Mockingbird. My television, my internet, my movies are influencing me. And by the way, this ties into the reveal episodes that we've done in the past. And Iris and I will take you back to that in just a few minutes. But first, I had a hang up about doing tonight's show, and Iris said, you need to say that on the air, what you just said about what you think. And I said, thank you. That's an excellent idea. Basically, what happens is when you start looking into Operation Mockingbird, you'll pretty quickly find out that it goes down a really deep, disturbing, dark rabbit hole. We call them rabbit holes. They go to a dark place, and you're going to start hearing words like Pizzagate and human trafficking, child trafficking, sex trafficking, adrenochrome, and things like that. And when you find out what these terms mean and how they relate to each other, it's shocking and it's heartbreaking and it's profoundly sad, and I'm getting myself choked up here. What has happened to hundreds of thousands of people? Which is where I was going to go next, and Iris pushed me there, and that's dark humor.
And just wipe those tears right away.
And
and look here. What does Dale and Jeannie say?
It's time. Hang on.
Yes. Not that mine, it's not. Yeah.
Our little bells. Our little cowbells, if you can see them. Yep, in there. So thank you, Jeannie. Namaste, aloha, I love you, je t'aime, te amo, te quiero. So, whew, it is time. Absolutely. Thank you, my sister warriors, for saying that to us. And proceed with caution. The link that we send touches on those dark topics. It doesn't really dig into them. However, there's links on those videos to learn more behind them out on Rumble. Rumble.com. Actually, you can find almost anything on Rumble.com, especially controversial stuff. And I was talking to Iris about, this is going to get really dark and really heavy if I go past just Operation Mockingbird and start talking about the pedophilia, Pizzagate, government, US government, and all that stuff. And we're trying to promote coping mechanisms. And Iris brought up a brilliant point about another purpose that dark humor serves. Iris, where do we find this? What do we know?
Oh my God. Well, first of all, there's a lot of people use humor when things get really uptight, really, even scary. You see humor in scary movies and things like that, and it breaks the tension. And what I was telling you was like when I worked with vocational rehabilitation back, I was in my early to mid 20s, and um I already had a sick sense of humor. I mean, I grew up with a sick sense of humor. and
It's a coping mechanism. It's a coping mechanism.
It
Yeah.
is. And so, I would make jokes to my dad when he was in the hospital and he had open heart surgery, and we go into ICU, and he had like 4 or 5 IVs, and I said, "So this stuff has medicine that's supposed to make you feel better." And Dad said, he's like just hurting because he's had his chest cracked open and all that. And he's like, and I said, "Well, great. I'll just open this up and squeeze really hard, and we'll make you feel better really fast." And he's like, "Don't make me laugh." And he was grabbing a pillow and trying not to laugh and going, and that's kind of shit we do to each other all the time. It's okay, let's make us laugh. And the nurses would walk by and go, "What the fuck? He's supposed to be sick and y'all are in there laughing." But it worked. And, we would do that kind of thing. Well, then when I go to voc rehab, and I would think things. Yeah, voc rehab,
vocational
rehabilitation.
rehab. Yeah.
It's a state agency. Actually, I think it's nationwide, but anyway, North Carolina Vocational Rehabilitation state agency that helps people with disabilities go back to work or keep their jobs. And I specifically worked with the hearing impaired caseload, but there were caseloads for people who were paraplegic. There was caseloads for people with amputations, mental health, they were all kinds. And, sometimes we'd be in the office and a group of us talking, and all of a sudden somebody pull out a joke, and it was like, we would just crack up. And I always had that double glee because I was like, first of all, I love these kind of jokes. And second, this is entertaining to see other people do it. And like one joke I remember is, did you hear about the guy that lost his arms and legs and he always wanted to play baseball? And it's like, no, what happened? And they said, they actually let him play in a game. He was third base.
Morbid and funny.
And then we go, "Oh, we hope no clients are coming in there hearing us laugh."
Yeah, you check for clients first.
Yeah, and there was a ton of jokes like that. I can't think of any more off the top of my head, but there were jokes like that. And then you have the jokes like, what was the name of the guy? What did you hear about the guy? The guy with a wooden leg. The guy with a wooden leg named Smith. Well, what
No.
was the guy's name? The
Yeah.
wooden leg was named Smith, not the guy, that kind of thing. I blew that joke, but you get it anyway. So yes, you don't have to feel like you're laughing at somebody else's expense. It's
There's
a way
timing
to
to it. There's diplomacy to it.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I guess I've always been I had great empathy and can and am empathic, where I take on people's emotions, that I can sit there and somebody will start crying and all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, I feel like crying. I don't even know what, and it's like, oh, Iris, back off. I gotta back the energy off. So I'm not, I get that way. But I also recognize that there's a lot of things that don't bother me. And I think I've told you before. I mean, I went to death row and saw a guy put to death by lethal injection. It was very poignant. It was a fascinating story. I
And Iris can
loved
read
it.
lips, so she could see what people were saying on the other side of the glass.
Yeah, because nobody, all the other reporters with me were like, "Well, what's he saying?" And I'm like, "You can't tell." And so I was like telling them what he was saying. And when the AP News and the NPR are standing there and they're going, "What's he saying?" And I'm telling them, But to understand that whole conversation that was going back and forth, there's lots of details behind the story that I was just like loving being an observer of this. And the guy died,
It's an
and it was,
honor.
and yeah, and it was a really interesting situation. I wasn't blown away by it, but I was transformed in a lot of ways. But it's not something that I look back and go, "Oh, that was just horrible watching somebody die." And oh my God, when people start doing that shit, I'm just like, really, come, snap out of it. I'll be like,
Act
share,
now.
oh, snap out
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is what it is. Somebody gets hurt. I mean, if they lose a leg, I'm there putting a tourniquet on it. I'm not really getting
I'm looking
traumatized.
around for barbecue sauce. No, I'm kidding. It was appropriate to say a dark humor joke right then.
CD, we have to make this symmetrical.
Fire up that,
Are you pulling
yes.
my leg? No.
Not yet. You're still awake. Not yet.
It's just a femoral artery. Who cares if the blood's going everywhere?
You get some, and you get some, and you start imitating Oprah Winfrey on that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But guys, dark humor is a coping mechanism, which is a part of what we're trying to teach or share during this,
In
during
an
this whole
exhibitory
series.
fashion.
Exemplary in both meanings of the word.
Oh, thank you, Rosemary.
Exemplary fashion. So thank you. And I'm glad we're getting some giggles out of other people too, because we definitely amuse ourselves. So,
we're going to have a good time whether y'all are or not.
Good cartoon. Robin says, CNN said, and then thwack, Batman, Operation Mockingbird. And that happens a lot. Yeah, you find out who the biggest disseminators of Operation, let's just call it Mockingbird, of the opera, whatever you want to call it, of the OM, of the propaganda. Let's just call it what it is. All right, instead of euphemisms. And Jeannie, I heard you. Thank you. I'm skipping the euphemisms. The propaganda you're going to see are mostly the nightly news, the national nightly news. Iris, can you throw the meme back up that had all of the major news conglomerates written across the top? It was all black. I think it was the second to last one. And it listed most of the news distributors so you guys can see a little bit of names of who we're actually pointing fingers at, and we're not the only ones pointing fingers at them.
No, I don't know which one, and I've closed some of them. I'm not sure which one you were talking about because I had so many.
this one was a long one. It was black background, white letters, and it talked about defined what was the legal
Oh.
the legal aspects of allowing this kind of propaganda to occur in America.
Yeah, because I'm sorting through a bunch of. Oh, here we go.
I'm springing it on you. I apologize, but
No
it just
worries.
occurred to me that screen had information that we didn't talk about. All right, so I'll throw that one all the way up if you can. And guys, there's your major perpetrators across the top of the screen, starting with CNN. And I'm not going to say all of them because God knows this episode might get soft censored or completely censored. Mm-hmm. Hopefully not at all. But if it does, well, hell, if it does, let's go ahead and say it. CNN, yeah. CBS, MSNBC, ABC, NPR. That particularly broke my heart. I love a lot of their shows, but not more. BBC, New York Times, Google. Those two places.
Yeah, our two platforms.
Y'all can understand that one. Washington Post, also the New York Times, Miami News, and similar national newspapers. Thank you, Iris, for finding that for us.
Sure. I think, something else to mention, it's not so hard to believe that companies would do this shit when we know, I mean, they've been accused of bias for decades. They're too liberal. Oh, they're too... Well,
that's soft-pedaling propaganda. Bias is this big, propaganda is that big.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, if they're going to do that, why aren't they going to step over the line? Or if we can recognize the bias, why can't we recognize the propaganda? It's like open your eyes a little bit wider.
One steps to the other.
and I was telling you, and I think this is relevant too. I listen in the radio. I'll listen to some shows, and I kind of always listen to everything with a grain of salt, because you get one direction and you don't get the whole picture. But I was listening to Sean Hannity, and and he kind of grates me a little bit, but it's interesting some of the stuff he brings on and the people he brings on. And he brought Bill O'Reilly on his show, and he does it once a week. And they were upset about some things that were going on politically with the budget and the stuff that's going on. And Hannity's going, well, McCarthy, Joseph McCarthy Jr. or whoever, one of the congressmen who's been trying to talk to Biden to reach an agreement between the Republicans and the Democrats. He's been hitting him every day and not able to. Yeah, about the budget, and trying to hit Biden every day, and he's not doing it. So why doesn't
responding?
Biden's not responding. So why doesn't McCarthy just throw his hands up and go, okay, it's not my fault. We'll just let it fall on Biden. Well, it's his fault. I'm trying, but it's his fault. And Bill O'Reilly said, well, yeah, theoretically that should work. He said, but the problem is, and this is what I thought was interesting. He said, the problem is mainstream media will never report the whole story. All you'll hear is the fact that this happened, and that the bad things that the Republicans did, not the good thing.
Right.
And he said, and you can't, when you've got over 50% of the people listening to that and don't recognize that the media will lie or withhold the truth, you let that out, and it's just going to hurt us more than it's going to help us. You can't just throw your hands up. You've got to make sure it gets out, and more on just like our shows. Which I thought I was like, holy cow, we're doing a program about that tonight.
There is a reveal right there, a soft reveal in conversation, which kind of ties back to something I said a few minutes ago. If you want to comment a little further, Iris, about this show is actually a precursor to what is being revealed in Reveals episodes that we have done before. Can you explain what I'm talking about?
In reveals, there are movie reveals, TV program reveals. I talked just a few minutes ago about the Game of Thrones and how she was saying how, as a king, he can rewrite history. That's a reveal. There are things that happen that we see in movies and TV that you go, wow, that's interesting. And when you start looking at it a little bit deeper, there's things that you go, holy shit, that's really
Happening.
happening, and it was written into the story. We did music songs a couple of weeks ago talking about some things that are written in songs and whether it was deliberate or accidental, which is another thing. Just while I'm thinking about this, it's something we haven't talked about a lot, but that we did talk about at one point ages ago. Sometimes, sometimes things are written deliberately. People go, oh, well, we're going to write this into the script and, it's going to tell something to people,
Hidden
Um,
message, right?
but there are times where things are written and it's subconscious or it's divine inspiration. I've written things, and when I have finished writing it, going, what the hell did I just write? I had no idea I wrote that. It just kind of all of a sudden, and it's there, and it's just an amazing piece of writing, and I know that I didn't do it, you know. And I think sometimes I like to believe that there is divine intervention where it's like this needs to be revealed, and so these writers don't know what the hell they're writing about, but they think it's a good story idea and it gets in there, and then the cosmos is sitting back and going ha 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 ha. Talk about sense of humor. But that, I'm not saying that that's always the case, but I mean, but there are times, and also when there is the theory that anything the quote unquote bad guys do, they have to let us know in some way that they're doing it on a cosmos level.
I was going to circle around to that too, and I figured you might as well. Hi, Deborah. It's good to see you again, sweetie. Yeah, there is a supposedly, and there is a basic cosmic law that both back up, better language, that beings who are in service to self and also beings who are in service to others. On Earth, we usually categorize those as good side and bad side, or dark side and light side, duality garbage. Instead, in service to self and service to others, that both of them have to subscribe to basically the prime directive that is described in a reveal many times in the Star Trek series, both television and movie. Prime directive says you can't interfere with the development of a culture that is not spacefaring yet. And they define it more and more from there. Now, that's how they say it on television. Our intuitive gurus and friends and researchers and truthers and teachers from decades and decades past, as well as all the way up to now, and people who talk to the Galactic Federation and cool entities like that, subscribe to the same thing, that you are not allowed to develop with the, you're not allowed to interfere with the spiritual and physical development of a culture before a certain point. And
wasn't that in the Avatar movie? These people going in, the avatars, when they would go in, they weren't supposed to interfere.
If somebody remembers something from that Avatar, please put it in comments, because that's not coming to me. But if
I might be making it up, but there was something about how they were doing it, because there was questions about, well, they were trying to go in and investigate. And it was like,
they were trying to get unobtainium.
You can't fuck with them, you can't.
Right. And they said, and you know what? It was in the second movie. He said, yep, that's why we do this out at sea where they can't see us, out in the middle of the ocean. Yes, that was in the second movie.
I didn't see the second one, so I just remember something in the first one, because they were getting dressed and having to. It was like you had to be careful how you move and all that.
That was in the second one. Yeah, it might have been in the first one, based on what you're saying. So the cosmic law says you can't mess with them. And the way that service to self entities / negative entities get around that is you can mess with the development of a civilization if you tell them first and they agree to it. Okay, that's part of the cosmic law too. If you tell them exactly what you're going to do and they agree to it. So how they circumvent that is they put all these, the theory is that seems to prove itself over and over and over. The theory is that they put these reveals and explanations broken up at random in entertainment venues, such as sci-fi movies, fi meaning fiction, so we don't think they're real, and in children's entertainment. They're getting permission from the next generation before they're old enough to participate. Well, you already got permission when they were little kids. They already subscribed to it.
And y'all, look at, this is a perfect time to mention, look at the stuff they're doing, creating programming and all regarding transsexuality and all that stuff for little kids now. I mean, little kids, like on PBS, they've got these programs that are addressing all this sexuality and stuff for 5-year-olds.
Their brains are not developed for that. Their brains, their brains can't process that. But remember, the part 2 of this is they have to agree to it. Well, we didn't agree. Yes, you did. By not resisting. You being me too. By not resisting, by not shutting it down, by not participating. By participating and not resisting, that in the cosmos is classified as agreeing. There are powers out there that have now seen that psychological discrepancy is unethical on humans. Highly unethical, to the tune of maybe thousands of years being of testing and seeing that it's unethical how fast humans succumb to this without knowing. And I'm touching on the surface of a much longer, bigger, deeper conversation that maybe someday we'll have in the future. But coming back to here and now, so they do reveal, and we do agree by not resisting, and they do reveal in our entertainment industry. Yet another feature of Operation Mockingbird, which is why we're bringing it up tonight.
Yeah. And Deborah pointed out that there are agencies whose job it is to reach out to social media influencers. These are advertising agencies, because I've heard this story before, and I think I've told it too. The advertising agencies will pay influencers who have a certain amount of followers to reach out and promote various topics, whether it's Black Lives Matter, Antifa, the
social justice topics,
all that stuff. And it's like, oh, if you'll just say something about it in a positive way and share it with your crowd, your followers will pay you oodles of bucks. Doesn't matter that you subscribe to it or not. And the influencers don't know the actual source of funds, and the public doesn't realize people are paid. Now, it's interesting when I see like anybody, like a big star, somebody who's really popular, maybe not a star, but like somebody who is an influencer or whatever, and they're out there and they're promoting something and they go, well, this isn't so bad. And it's like, how much did they pay you? I mean, that's what I'll comment on their Twitter. I'll just say, how much did they pay you? and other people do the same thing. I've seen other people make the same comment. So there are people that are realizing it, but in general, people go, oh, well, that person has 1 million followers and they're saying that we should do X, Y, Z and that this is bad. And they just got paid money to say it.
Think for yourselves, folks. Be discerning, do the research, ask questions, follow your intuition, set it aside if you're not sure. Go within.
Yeah.
Don't believe necessarily what influencers and podcast hosts necessarily have to say. We encourage you to think for yourself, research for yourself.
I will
And
put up some of those documents.
put up some of, check out some of the documents that we're speaking from and find out what's going on, because there's a lot more in those documents than what we said here. It's kind of interesting. And forewarned, there are rabbit holes that are shocking and sad. So we have run to the end of our time.
Okay. I had to put it up again.
I love it. We are rabbit holes. My God, if you talk to us in person, if you talk to either one of us in person off the air, we'll go there real quick.
We joyously go down those rabbit holes. Oh,
yeah. Heidi has an interesting comment. She says, we also agreed to it because the Bible literally the deception written out. The cosmic truths keeping us in low vibration, mass vaccination, slavery, genocide. We already agreed to it all. Yeah. And Aaron says, rabbit, 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 rabbit.
I love that. I've never
That's very good. Yes. You know, and you put a black circle beside your rabbits, Aaron, so that you got rabbit hole.
Oh, yeah.
Put a black circle, but you have a black spot. You're welcome. Aloha. Mahalo, guys. Thank you. Come join us next week when we have Stacy talking to us about seashells and Hawaiian energy healing. Mainlanders usually use crystals and stones. In the island traditions, they use seashells and other relative stuff. I'm guessing coral and pearl and good stuff like that. But he's going to regale us with more cool information about that. And then the week after, psychic readings. And then May 24, just to mention, we are going to be live on location at a Weird People's Conference in Grafton, Illinois. This is out there kind of good stuff. But more about that later. And then we'll talk about Bigfoot the week after that. Iris, anything else before we wrap?
I don't think so. God, we covered a lot, and it's all over the place. But we're so glad y'all stuck with us and tuned in, and hope you'll
please
join
come
us
back next week.
Yes. Thank y'all so much. It's awesome being here.
Go within, guys. Namaste.
Thank you for joining The Eyes of Indigo with Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears. Music is Arcadia by Kevin MacLeod of Incomptech.com, licensed under Creative Commons. Visit our Facebook page for broadcast details at www.facebook.com/Eyes of Indigo. Show is copyright 2023 by Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears. All rights reserved.